and I don't give a damn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is your girl Mercy Atis, and today I am talking about episode number 5 of my full life story, Shattered Dreams. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and watch episode number 1, first introduction, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, and then come watch episode 5 so you can keep up with the story. Please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I post a video. Episode 5 today, I'm going to talk about my life after I completed high school. The same day that I completed my Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education Examinations, in bracket KCSE, I packed up all my stuff and I went from Ng'ia Girls High School to Siaya. I left all my belongings inside my auntie's house in Siaya. I then took the next matatu that was heading to Eldoret, where I was going to live with my brother, Pastor Vincent Odhiambo Nyango. During this time, my brother was a 4th year student at University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, and he was studying theology in dreams of becoming a pastor, a Seventh-day Adventist pastor. My brother was around 24 years old at the time. When I got to Baraton University, I immediately got involved with the church and with singing. In addition to this, my brother opened for me a business so that I don't stay so idle. He opened for me a business to sell porridge and chapatis. And I was to sell this porridge and chapatis to construction workers inside Baraton University. During this time, they were constructing the English church. So I was selling porridge and chapatis to construction workers at Baraton University. Okay. It was quite an interesting and a challenging job at the same time, because it was so nice. Like, my brother would buy for me like a whole bundle of chapati flour, and I would cook the whole week, and I would give the construction workers on credit, and then on Friday when they got paid, I was supposed to go to the window and ask for my money. It just so happened, unfortunately, that many people wanted to eat, but they never wanted to pay. To this day, which is many years later, so many people still owe me thousands and thousands of shillings from that chapati business. I lived with my brother. He was living outside the university. He was a day scholar at Baraton University. And in addition to myself, my brother was also living with his friends. My brother was a very kind and loving man, and he would bring so many people from the village to just live with him. At the time when I was living with him, he was living with 2 other male friends from our village. I joined Kiswahili Church, and I joined a youth group, led by a man from Malawi called the Morning Stars. And in this youth group, we would minister and sing and go to different events. So I would sing, I would also go to Kiswahili Church, and it was not bad. At one point, one of my brother's friends who was living with us kind of tried to make me and my brother not get along. But thankfully, we overcame that, and everything was going okay. During the short time I was living with my brother, he kept saying how much he hates the month of February. He hates the month of February. I hate February. I hate February. And he said February was the month in his life that the worst things had ever happened to him. Other than being a student at Baraton University, my brother also used to do colportering work, like selling books in Nairobi. The SDA books, especially the ones by Ellen G. White. So he would do that, and he had actually even gone to Botswana to sell books, and he had come back with some good money. This was all when I was in high school. So when I was living with him, he was doing good. He was going to school and also working as a gardener for some lecturers, including one woman named Dr. Jordan. So in general, my brother was a very much loved human being. I remember still very clearly that my brother started buying a lot of flowers. You know those flowers, the round ones, the ones that you put on top of a grave? He started buying a lot of those red flowers. And I remember that at one point, one of his friend's mother came and was like, what are these flowers for? They were all red flowers put in like a bouquet. But he kept buying the flowers, the red flowers. Remember, I moved to live with my brother in November, immediately after finishing my high school examinations. In February, one day my brother said he had a headache. And with this headache, it was severe headache, that he was taken to the hospital inside the university. The university hospital then referred my brother to Moi Referral Hospital in Eldoret. The person who went with my brother to the hospital was my brother's friend, who was also... Toto, get down. You. I will never come back with you to the rooftop again. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry. I don't know how to edit, so I want to be able to remove this part, and I don't want to start afresh because it's just about to rain. The rains in Nairobi are so bad. So please forgive me for that. So my brother was taken to the hospital by one of his friends named Dan, and I stayed back at the university. This was on a Friday, I believe. On a Saturday night, I spoke with my brother on the phone, and very clearly my brother told me that he's doing very well, he's healing, they have given him good treatment, and he would be released the next day on Sunday, or latest by Monday, he would be back. And I remember that my brother was cracking a lot of jokes. I had a friend named Cynthia, and Cynthia also spoke with my brother on the phone on that night, on Saturday night. And he was making fun of Cynthia, saying, Kafo, please, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm actually doing well. I was so happy. Now, Sunday morning, I cooked my porridge and chapatis, and I went to the university. As I was selling the porridge and the chapatis, people were looking at me very strangely, and I had no idea why. I didn't even notice. At one point, somebody who is our neighbor came to me and said, Mercy, how are you? How is Pastor Vin doing? I told her, was a lady, that Pastor Vin is doing very well. I spoke with him yesterday. He said he's doing well and he's coming home today or tomorrow. Don't lay down there, okay? Okay. And she just shook her head and said, okay. Little did I know that there were notices all over the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton. Even right where I was selling porridge, the tree behind me had a notice that read, "We are sorry to announce the sudden and unexpected death of Pastor Vincent Odhiambo Onyango, who passed away this morning at Moi Referral Hospital in Eldoret." People were looking at me strange, and people were wondering what is wrong with me, because here I was selling porridge, smiling with everybody, not knowing that my brother was dead, and everybody was aware except myself. I did not see these notices. I went ahead and sold my porridge, and then I went back to our house. My brother lived in a single room, and you know those single rooms from a long time ago, they used to divide the single room with a curtain. So my brother's single room was divided by a curtain. Normally, one of my brother's friends, who was from the village, was always looking forward to eating the leftovers from what I sold. But this day when I got home, he looked at me, he got his head up, he looked at me. Please get down. Get down. He got his head up, he looked at me, and then he put his head down like this on the table. So I was wondering, how come today he doesn't want to eat the leftover chapati? How come he's not running to the porridge that is the leftover porridge? I ignored that. I always used to wash the dishes, you know, everything that I used as soon as I get back from selling my porridge. But this day, for some reason, I didn't. I just put the dishes there because I saw that this man was not in the mood. He always gave me mood. He was always a very jovial man. I threw the dishes there, and I think I even made fun of him. I said, today you're not eating the leftovers. And I smiled, and then I threw everything there, and I went and lay down on my brother's bed, covered by a curtain. It only took a few minutes. Toto, get down. Put on your shoes. Sorry, guys. It only took a few minutes before I had people singing. So many people singing. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. These people were singing, and they were singing towards our house. It was a group of so many people. As I listened, they were singing Seventh-day Adventist funeral songs. I still couldn't grasp what was going on. I was wondering what happened. You know, why are these people singing funeral songs? Just a few minutes later, a whole group of pastors from the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, so many pastors strolled into my brother's house. I still couldn't understand what was going on. You know, sometimes when death happens so suddenly, so unexpectedly, your mind cannot simply grasp what is going on. So they were singing, and they got in our house, and I still couldn't understand. Then they started praying. They were praying. Lucky this child. Please stop. Get down now. Put on your slippers. If you climb up there again, I'm gonna beat you. Go to the house. Where is your shoes? I'm sorry, I wish I could edit this out. I'm gonna try to edit it out. If I don't, please just forgive me. I am at the rooftop and my son is doing very risky stuff here at the rooftop, okay? Sorry about that, guys. So, I still couldn't grasp. They started to pray. They said, you have even called your son, Pastor Vincent Odhiambo Nyango, home. May the angels receive him. I was like, what are you guys talking about? So I got out of the curtain. And when the pastors saw me, they looked like they were shocked. I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then while they were still praying and crying and singing, Pastor Ngaira came. And Pastor Ngaira was shouting. And he was like, oh no, death, you're so cruel. You're gonna be defeated. It's not fair. Pastor Vin was a very young man. He was just talking. And I was like, I asked Pastor Ngaira, what is going on? And Pastor Ngaira was just lamenting about how cruel death was. I still was in disbelief. I was like, it is not happening. There is no way that my brother is dead. There is no way. I was hearing what they were saying, but I could not accept. I was in such denial. I was like, there is absolutely no way that my brother can die. The pastors then left. After they left, Dr. Jordan came to my brother's house. Dr. Jordan was the white lecturer that my brother used to work for as a gardener. When Dr. Jordan came, she started kissing me on the cheeks and crying. Now, this is what made me to break down. So I began to cry with Dr. Jordan. She was holding me so tight. I was in so much distress. I have been only in this much distress twice. I was in so much distress that my monthly periods began unexpectedly, and I was bleeding profusely. And it was a crazy day. It was a very crazy day. Things were happening very, very fast. And it's been many years, but it's still very hard for me, the way that my brother passed on. I remember, the next thing I remember was a pastor from Kisumu named Pastor James Ouma. Pastor James Ouma came to Baraton, and he wanted to do everything to protect me. It was a blow to me because my mother had passed away. This is my brother. I was just very young, just fresh out of high school. This is my only brother who is living with me, who is taking care of me. And now he's gone. So Pastor Ouma just wanted to shelter me. He insisted that I cannot go to the mortuary. He took me from Baraton University and he drove me to his house in Kisumu, where I was to live with his wife and his kids as they were doing the funeral arrangements. I did not know how the other process went. I had no idea how they did the funeral arrangements and everything. The next thing that I remember, I don't even know how I got home to my village, but the only thing that I remember was that I remember my brother's body being brought home, and it was in a semi pickup truck, and the back was full of university students. And I also remember a lot of chaos in my home on that day. I remember my older sister crying so hard and saying, bendera nyekundu imefika, bendera nyekundu ndio imefika, mulisema atarudi na bendera nyekundu, bendera nyekundu imefika, like the red flag is here. You say that he will come back in a red flag, and the red flag is here. I hope you are now happy. And I remember my stepfamily attacking my sister physically. And then I remember the university students defending my sister. The day that my brother's body was brought home, it was chaos, it was fights. And had it not been for the university students from Baraton, I don't know what would have happened to my sister. I also remember my stepmother saying, don't cry on this side. There is no funeral on this side. Go cry in the other house. Go cry in the other house. It was a total mess. It was chaos. My brother's death was extremely shocking and extremely traumatizing to so many people. I then saw my brother in a coffin, and he was wearing his favorite suit. Yeah, his favorite suit, kind of like a maroon suit. And he didn't look like he was dead. He just looked like he was sleeping. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. May you rest well, Pastor Vin. My brother, I love you so much. So yeah, like I told you, it just looked like my brother was asleep. He looked okay, he didn't look like he was dead in the coffin. I don't know what happened. I don't even remember the burial itself. The only thing I remember next, after my brother was buried, I also remember that on the burial day there were so many people. So many people in our home. Like, my brother's death kind of reminded me of Chira's death. So many youths came to our house, to our home, so many. And I thank God that when my brother died, my mother was already dead. I don't know how my mother could have handled my brother's death. It could have been a huge blow to her. So, I didn't tell you that when my mother had passed on, my brother was the one who tried to unite us. He had called a meeting, and between us and our step family, he had said that we are all children of the same father, and our mother is now dead. Like, my brother was the family uniter. He was the stronger man more than the older brother. I'm sorry guys if I'm talking so low. The next thing I remember is people fighting. Now Pastor Vin is dead. Now what is going to happen with Mercy? What is going to happen with me? And my family had a fear of me going back to Baraton, because they thought if I go back to Baraton, I'm going to die there also. But the lecturers from Baraton, they were saying I should go back to Baraton so that I can get help from Baraton. Some of my family were saying I should go now and do tailoring. And I was like, I don't want to go do tailoring. I want to go to college. You know, this time my KCSE results had come out, and disappointingly, I had scored a C+, which was really not what I was expecting. It was not what anybody was expecting from me. I was very sure I was going to qualify to go directly to the university. So the C+ was a big disappointment to everybody. Things happened, fortunately or unfortunately, but I ended up going back to Baraton University. When I went back to Baraton University, one of my brother's friends didn't want me there, and I ended up getting kicked out of my brother's house. I was kicked out of my brother's house by his late friend. There was war about who's gonna take his belongings, and his friend wanted all his belongings. So I ended up homeless in Baraton for the first time. But I want to thank the Kalenjin community. I want to thank the Kalenjin community, because when my brother's friends kicked me out of my brother's house, the Kalenjin community embraced me wholeheartedly. The Kalenjin community took me as one of their own, and at one point I lived in the Kalenjin villages, and I never once felt like I was not one of them. I never felt like I'm a Luo. The Kalenjin community treated me very well, and with so much respect and love. And one of my best Kalenjin friends is named Doreen Chepkemboi. This woman was an angel to me during the time I was dealing with my brother's death. She embraced me so much. She showed me so much love. I was always invited to all the events for the Kalenjin community. I was always invited to, you know, the pre-weddings, the dowry payments, like all the events. I went to the churches inside the villages. I embraced the Kalenjin community. I love you and I appreciate you for accepting me just the way that I was. I don't love the Kalenjin community because the president is a Kalenjin. No. I love the Kalenjin community because they treated me as one of their own child. If you understand what I mean. They took me as one of their own and they showed me so much love and respect. And they embraced me. If they were eating murusiki, I would eat murusiki with them. I learned a few Kalenjin words. Aja aginye, let me stop crying. But it was also a man from the Kalenjin community who held my hands. His name was Peter Kosgei. And Peter Kosgei got a chance to go to America. Now when he was going to America, he made a promise to me and he said, listen, Mercy, your brother was a great friend of mine. And when I go to America, I will do everything in my power to make sure that I bring you to America. I did not really believe him. But he made the promise. True to his word, when he got to America, he would communicate to me through his wife. Peter Kosgei would communicate with me through his wife. He sent me application forms for a college through his wife. His wife would get the mail and then pass it to me. I fill the application forms, I give back to the wife would send them to America. Pastor Kosgei had a genuine heart, and my story might have been presented in a different way to different platforms. You know, when you're doing interview on other people's platforms, you really just answer the questions that they're asking you. But when I'm talking on my own platform, I can tell you that Pastor Peter Kosgei, he was a genuine man. Amenda chini. Pastor Peter Kosgei was a genuine man and he genuinely wanted to help me out. Now, after he landed in America, the first person he brought to America was his own wife, and children. But the second person was me. And he did not care that I'm from another tribe. He did not care about anything. Before even Pastor Kosgei could bring me to America, the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, decided to enroll me in the university free of charge. This was led by the Vice Chancellor at the time, Professor Mutuku Mutinga. Professor Mutuku Mutinga enrolled me into the university free of charge. And when it was time to register, I would just cry in his office, and then he would say, I would take classes. I was taking classes. First they transferred some money that my brother had left, and then they would just enroll me for classes. At the time I studied, I registered to study an accounting major. So, let me end this episode because the weather looks really bad. It looks like it's gonna rain. I don't wanna hang up and then start again afresh tomorrow. So let me hang up this episode right now and just tell you that in episode 6, I'm gonna tell you about the process. After I received my admission letter to go to America, the process. How did I get my passport, my visa, my air ticket, and stuff like that. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and this is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.